Okay, let me share my screen. Let's go here. Let me see if I can get to our class. Make sure this is the right one. Okay. All right, so I'm going to need you to take good notes out there. Um, Remember, we're on virtual reality, but you want to make sure you're writing down some of the key stuff that I'm sharing and some things that jump out at you. So make sure you take good notes out there. I'm gonna start by here we are in week 3, and I want to talk to you some about. I want to emphasize 2 things. So we're week 3, part 2 of narrative writing, and so as you know, when you log on to the class, it defaults to this what we call the course home. And so we're going to look at what it's talking about that the assignment is from the course home, and then we're going to jump to content. Even before we talk about the home page, I want you to write this down. I want you to remember that the week, the assignments for the week are under content. The assignments for the week are under content. That's important to emphasize today because that as we look at this announcement for week 3, there are a couple of contradictions in here, and I'm trying to figure out how to get them fixed without messing stuff up. So we are in module 2, which is our module about the narrative writing. We're in module 2, part 2. Okay, so here we started out by saying, welcome to week 3. Thank you for allowing me to get to know you again. I'm still catching up on putting in grades and giving you feedback on the stuff you submitted so far, so look out for that. But this goes on to tell us that our first project, which is the identity narrative, this week we'll examine the writing skills necessary to make the types of connections and the type of focus needed to write this type of writing. But then after that, it jumps down into, and where it's kind of like this really should talk about readings that we're going to do this week. Notice that it talks about readings that we did last week. Now that's valuable in that some of us may be playing catch up, but they also know that when you assign readings in college, you might need to read them more than one time. So it's valuable to, again, if you haven't read, this would link us to the narrative notes from part 1 of module 2. Since you haven't read that, you still want to read them because they're part of the process. You might find yourself stumbling along if you don't take time out to make sure you've read the stuff from last week. And then also, this is chapter 29, which was assigned for reading last week. And so if you haven't read it, you want to make sure you read it and or even reread it. Again, these techniques about how we get started. This link for this learning notes, again, takes us back to last week. But this link right here for the identity narrative, that's where you click on, and let's take a quick look. And it gives you a detail, the prompts and everything about this narrative essay that we're going to write. That is going to be due on September 20th. We'll talk about that. And so here, that link from that homepage takes you into all of the details about the narrative essay. Okay, let me go back. We'll get back to that again. And then it goes on and tells you to watch the videos that we watched last week. Watch at least one of them. So there's some and then also down here where it says brainstorm and discussion. If you click that, it takes us back to last week. So there's some discrepancies in here that I'm trying to get IT to help me fix without messing it up. But I can say to you that even one of the good things about this mistake is that for us who haven't done the readings or watched the videos from last week, or who are serious about really making sure I kind of got what I need from it, this cue from the homepage is inviting you to spend time with the stuff from last week in order to move forward. And also, like I said, it's giving you the link about the details about writing this narrative essay. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't tell us what the additional readings and assignments are for this week. So that's why I want to emphasize, after you log on to our class throughout the semester, then go to content, because content is going to be the place that tells us what we're doing now. And it also will show you what we've done already, and it'll show you what we're going to do. So we go to content, it defaults us to module 2, narrative writing. And now module 2 has 3 parts. Module writing, part 1, part 2, part 3. We are on this week, part 2. So under content, under module 2, narrative writing, you want to click on narrative writing part 2. And here is where we have all our assignments and expectations for the week. We start out with our learning notes, where now it's talking to us about writing, about narrative writing. And it takes us into a video that talks about writing descriptively. And it's about a 5-minute video. It talks about how to use concrete language. I think it was Ryan, right, who shared your story, right? So did I get your name right? It was Ryan, right?
Yeah, it was.
So now, Ryan, like when you watch this video, and it's going to talk to you about how, and you do some of the reading, because there's a chapter we're going to talk about that you're assigned to read about a description. The question is now, how it's introducing us to techniques and tools we can use and resources and skills, so that now Ryan can help the reader feel the emotions that he felt in that moment he describes, right? And so you'll watch this video. We're not going to watch this one together because there's a couple more. We're going to watch one of them together. But it talks to you about how to write fiction that comes alive. Now, we're not writing fiction because we're writing a narrative. So it's based in real life. But you still can use the tools that writers use to write fiction to write narrative. Because what fiction hinges on is writing that appeals to the senses. We want a person to see a movie while they're reading our words on the page. We want to, I could kind of see it some. I didn't see all the details. I could see the bat swinging. But now, as Ryan develops that, he can actually play the movie, if you will, in front of the reader in the way he sees it every time he tells that story. So even though we're not writing fiction, you're going to find that this little video is very useful to help you to understand how you're going to use language that shows us your story and appeals to our emotions. We want to hear sounds. We want to feel things. We want to smell things. We want to appeal to the senses. And so you want to take your time as you're reading through these learning notes and watching these videos. This second video, it's a video about slowing down time. Ever watch one of those movies where they show stuff in regular speed, but then they just slow it down? And it talks about the technique of slowing down time. This is a short video, about 6 minutes. So let's watch it together. And as we're watching it, remember, we're not watching it passively, we're watching it actively. So listen and jot down anything that might jump out to you that you might find, valuable in helping you, in this writing process. So let's watch this video together.
got in my first car accident when I was 16. I had just gotten my license and I was driving home when a car pulled into the intersection and bang, it hit me. It happened that quick, bang. But when I play that memory back, it doesn't take 2 seconds. I see the tires of the car rolling through the stop sign. I have time to think, I think that car is going to hit me. I see the right-hand corner of the hood crumple up like tinfoil, see the red paint flake off and drift into the air. I can see all of that, like it's happening in slow motion. In my memory, that experience takes 10 seconds. But why? Why did that memory play back longer than the actual time it took? This is an interesting phenomenon, and it's not just for car accidents. A roller coaster or a first kiss. These events seem to take longer than they actually take. But why? And when it comes to writing about that experience, how do I get that peculiar feeling across? How do I slow down time as a writer? To get the answer, we have to visit Hollywood. You see, the way filmmakers create slow motion will tell us a lot about how writers can create slow motion. First, let's remember how film works. When the camera turns on, it's not recording motion. It's taking lots and lots of individual pictures. Then when those pictures are played back in a projector, they blend together and create the appearance of motion, like a flipbook. So let's imagine that a cameraman needs to film his actress skipping through a field of daisies in regular motion. Ready, action. She skips across the field, he records it, and cut. Let's say for the sake of easy math that our cameraman took 50 pictures, 50 little frames on that length of film. Now let's take that film and play it back at the rate of 50 frames per 5 seconds. This rate is constant. The projector will always go at the same speed. It's easy, we've got 50 frames, so our film takes 5 seconds. She skips across the field and cut. So then, how do we slow down time in film? How do we create slow motion? Maybe this is a surprise, but we don't take less pictures. We take more pictures. Ready? Action. She skips across the field, he records it, and cut. Now we have a lot of film, a long length, let's say 100 frames long. Now, when we play it back, it takes a longer time to get through. And there's the actress in slow motion, skipping through the field of daisies. Which brings us now to writing. When you're writing a narrative, you may want to use slow motion in one of your scenes. It's a cool effect, just like it is in Hollywood, and it draws the reader's attention to important moments. Well, here's how you do it. You see, when we read, our brain makes the words into pictures, and the pictures blend into action. So what we read is what we see in the time it takes us to read it. For example, imagine you're writing a narrative about your game-winning free throw in the championship game. Here's a moment as a writer that you might want to slow down time to really capture the second-by-second tension produced by the scene. You concentrate, you put the pencil to paper, you really want to slow down time. You write, I shot the ball in the hoop. Time slowed down, then we won. To read that takes 2 seconds. Therefore, your reader imagines a scene that takes 2 seconds. Ball goes up, comes down, done. See, even though you wrote time slowed down, you didn't achieve that effect for your reader. Just saying it doesn't make it happen. Now let's take what we know about film, time slows down with more pictures, and try again. This time, write a lot more.
I bent my knees and held the ball loosely. Letting the ball bounce on the floor once more, I gathered my thoughts. This was the moment. My right arm extended as I released the ball with a gentle flick. It rotated slightly as it arched toward the rim. I held my breath. The ball nudged the back rim, falling through the net with a gentle, satisfying swoosh, and the crowd exploded from their seats.
See? We just slowed down time through our writing. The bottom line is this. There are moments in life that take longer than they actually take. When you're planning out your narrative, think about those moments, those snippets of life that took longer than the watch. The moment of hearing bad news, the moment of hearing good news, the moment of exhilaration when you realize you hit the jump, or the moment when you realize you aren't going to land it. Once you identify these moments in your narrative, you can use this effect of slow motion when you write. Just remember, it's not enough to say, time slowed down, and it's not enough to throw a couple adjectives in a sentence and call it done either. Descriptive writing is good writing, that's true. But if you want to express the feeling of slow motion in life, you have to actually take up more physical space on the page. Use more film, so to speak. In doing so, you will create tension and keep your reader interested. And that way, the next time you write, you'll control the camera of your own writing.
Okay, so that might have been I don't know how many film majors we have in this class. So this idea about as you're writing, like even that the moment that we wrote down, or that moment that you're thinking about, that is somehow pushing its way into the story you're going to tell. This idea of slowing down that thought or that experience in a way that the reader can watch that movie as he or she reads the words on the page. Questions, comments, feedback, anything really significant jump out to anybody as we were watching this video together? Let's there's a third video down there that I want y'all to watch. And again, you have these in your course. You can watch them over and over again. But I think it'd be valuable for us to let's watch this video together. We just talked about slowing down time. You can watch this, watch the video over and over again, and then try it out, on the page like you're going to get to do for this prompt that you're working on, for this post that you're working on discussion. We're going to talk about that. But let's talk about descriptive language. So let's invest these 5 minutes and watch this little video together.
We read fiction for many reasons. To be entertained, to find out whodunit it, to travel to strange new planets, to be scared, to laugh, to cry, to think, to feel, to be so absorbed that for a while we forget where we are. So how about writing fiction? How do you suck your readers into your stories? With an exciting plot? Maybe. Fascinating characters? Probably. Beautiful language? Perhaps. Billy's legs are noodles. The ends of her hair are poison needles. Her tongue is a bristly sponge, and her eyes are bags of bleach. Did that description almost make you feel as queasy as Billy? We grasp that Billy's legs aren't actually noodles. To Billy, they feel as limp as cooked noodles. It's an implied comparison, a metaphor. So why not simply write it like this? Billy feels nauseated and weak. Chances are, the second description wasn't as vivid to you as the first. The point of fiction is to cast a spell, a momentary illusion that you are living in the world of the story. Fiction engages the senses, helps us create vivid mental simulacra of the experiences the characters are having. Stage and screen engage some of our senses directly. We see and hear the interactions of the characters and the setting. But with prose fiction, all you have is static symbols on a contrasting background. If you describe the story in matter-of-fact, non-tactile language, the spell risks being a weak one. Your reader may not get much beyond interpreting the squiggles. She will understand what Billy feels like, but she won't feel what Billy feels. She'll be reading, not immersed in the world of the story, discovering the truths of Billy's life at the same time that Billy herself does. Fiction plays with our senses: taste, smell, touch, hearing, sight, and the sense of motion. It also plays with our ability to abstract and make complex associations. Look at the following sentence. The world was ghost quiet, except for the crack of sails and the burbling of water against hull. The words quiet Crack and burbling engage the sense of hearing. Notice that Bacall doesn't use the generic word sound. Each word he chooses evokes a particular quality of sound. Then, like an artist laying on washes of color to give the sense of texture to a painting, he adds another layer, motion, the crack of sails, and touch, the burbling of water against pulp. Finally, he gives us an abstract connection by linking the word quiet with the word ghost. Not quiet as a ghost, which would put a distancing layer of simile between the reader and the experience. Instead, Bacall creates the metaphor ghost quiet for an implied rather than overt comparison. Writers are always told to avoid cliches because there's very little engagement for the reader in an overused image such as red as a rose, but give them love began on a beach. It began that day when Jacob saw Annette in her stewed cherry dress, and their brains engage in the absorbing task of figuring out what a stewed cherry dress is like. Suddenly, they're on a beach about to fall in love. They're experiencing the story at both a visceral and a conceptual level, meeting the writer halfway in the imaginative play of creating a dynamic world of the senses. So when you write, use well-chosen words to engage sound, sight, taste, touch, smell, and movement. Then create unexpected connotations among your story elements and set your readers' brushfire imaginations alight.
Okay, so we have this invitation to use these tools of writing fiction. And again, we're not writing fiction, but we're using these tools that fiction writers use, or using these tools, fiction tools, because fiction engages the emotions and the senses. And we want to tell this story, you want to tell your story in a way that, as that reader is taking in those words from the page, they're watching this movie. I want you to we're not going to watch this video about the thesis statement together, but I want you to watch it. And we're going to talk more about this as we go into next week, where we're working on pulling together the draft, and you'll talk about this thesis statement more in your peer reviews of your draft, this essay next week. But this thesis statement, something else that you're looking for in the stuff you're writing is, how do you kind of craft this one sentence that becomes the brain of the entire story? But we'll spend more time talking about that. Any questions, comments, feedback so far? So this is all here for you in your learning notes. Taking that in, where it's talking to you about this narrative writing and these three very important prompts or places of intersection: description, dialogue, thesis statement. And then from there, our learning activities. Okay, so these are our learning activities for this week. Like the homepage encourages us to read chapter 29, which we read last week, to reread it. Your reading assignments for this week are chapters 42 and 43, one on describing and one on dialogue. And for those who might still be waiting for their books to come in, if you go to content, go into our class, go to content, and there's a folder called resources. And if you go into resources, I've put those chapters, I've put the readings that we've assigned so far there. So there is your chapter 42 on description, and there's your chapter 43 on dialogue. So now we have from the Norton Field Guide of Writing, just like we watched this video about this describing. Now you have a chapter that's talking to you about that. So the readings are there for you. Okay, let's go back to part 2. Okay. All right, so those are activities. You're reading chapter 42 and 43. Oh, and it says N 44? Okay. I didn't see that. Okay. So I have to put chapter 44 up there for you. Narrating. And don't let it intimidate you. They're kind of small, short chapters, but keep in mind you'll be reading them and rereading them, and you'll find yourself as you're working on your essay going back to them to find what you need. But I will add when we finish our class. I might have taken a couple of hours, but I'll add chapter 44 for those who are still waiting for their textbooks. And then it takes us into our discussion, which is our discussion is always our discussion post is always generally due, on Wednesdays. So we have this beautiful opportunity as we're together to come out of here and then post that thing by tonight. Now here for our discussion for this week, this discussion we will practice adding sensory details to slow down time and emphasize a moment in narrative writing. Review the information about sensory details and explore a moment and exploring a moment in the learning notes this week. Then dive in. So you can hang out with that page that we just looked at in learning notes. And now it's telling us think. Think of a moment that you might want to use for your narrative essay. This can be any small moment that holds some significance in your life. Do a quick free write about that moment to get your ideas out. Sounds familiar? So if we were here at the top of the class, that's what we spent 5 minutes writing about. So you actually, if you participated in that, you actually have this first draft of, if you will. If you didn't do it with us, when we get off here, put 5 minutes on the clock and write it down. Right? And then now if you think about it, think about that moment, identify that moment, then it wants you to, in your initial post, write at least 2 paragraphs where you explode that moment. So this is where now you're going into that 5 minute free writing, and depending on how how your mind works and how much you wrote down, you might read that writing to this prompt that we did in 5 minutes, and there might really be several moments. So you might pick one of those moments and now develop it into 2 paragraphs by fleshing it out using these details. Like when Ryan shared his moment, now you have this moment of that incident. Now the goal will be to now write at least 2 paragraphs where you explode that moment. When I see that word explode, I think about popcorn, kernels of popcorn. You know how you buy popcorn and they all look the same shape. But once you put them in that oil and enough heat comes, it forces that kernel to pop open. And then you have something so big that looked like it couldn't even fit in that little tiny kernel of corn. But not only that, each one of those kernels are unique. So your goal now is to take this moment, this memory that you zoomed in on, and using these techniques we're talking about, describing, language, imagery, appealing to the senses, slowing it down to explode that moment. Focus on sensory details and helping your reader experience the emotions with you. So we want to experience along with Ryan. So I don't know yet because he just shared, kind of in summary, but was there, was there blood? What emotions, as he talked about, the fear and the anxiety around, would it cost my brother his life? Would it cost him, would he have the functions of his whole body? Will he still have his eyes? A lot of wealth and opportunity to now flesh out that moment into these 2 paragraphs. And so then once you finish doing that, once you post it, so again, I'm encouraging you. You're not, you click right here and it takes you to a screen where you can write that in, but you don't want to write it. I encourage you not to write it actually in the post. Write it on paper and then type it up. You're using the writing process to write these 2 paragraphs. So that version that you post in the discussion really should probably be like at least like the 3rd draft. Keep in mind that writing is a process. So sometimes you might have done an essay or put an assignment somewhere in the past in a class and you didn't get the grade you wanted, and you might have made you think that you're not a good writer, but the odds are that possibly you might have handed in the first version that you wrote, which means you handed in the rough draft, which means that grade does not really reflect your ability as a writer, because the version that the teacher sees or the reader sees should at minimum be the 3rd draft. So if you do a free write, that's the 1st draft. You type up that free write, that's the 2nd draft. Then you read through and edit it and develop it, that's the 3rd draft. And whenever you're handing an assignment, that the minimum, it should be the 3rd draft that you're handing it over to the reader. And so you get an opportunity to practice that by crafting your initial response on page and typing it up and saving it in Word, and then going here and click where you add it and paste it into there so that you have that cleaner version. Then after you do that, we want you to, let me see if it's going, I'm just going to go away. After you do that, we want you to come back between tonight and Sunday and read some of your classmates' posts and respond to them. After you post your initial 2 paragraphs where you explode the sensory moment, then once you've posted them, come back several times throughout the week, read and reply to your peers. Now, I'm grading the first sets of discussion boards. I haven't finished reading our classes yet, but some students I couldn't give you all the points because you didn't. Some people just forgot to respond to classmates. Some students actually just wrote a line, but I want to emphasize it says you must thoroughly reply to at least 2 peers this week. As you respond to your peers, give each other kudos for descriptions that they really drew in on. So again, the collaboration is your peer is reading these chapters just like you're reading these chapters. So y'all can talk about the language of description. You could talk about the language of dialogue. You could talk about the language of narrative. You've done the investment in the reading, so you appears as writers. So now you can talk to the reader about how well they did with using this concrete language or imagery, how you felt the sting, if you will. So keep in mind that whenever you're responding to your classmates' post, then make sure that in your response you address everything that response is calling you to address. Help each other think of new and creative ways to describe and engage what works, what doesn't work. Let's build these narrative skills together. Any questions, comments, feedback so far? Okay, and let's see then what's next. It takes us into summary. So that we're spending this week now, again, learning about these tools we can use as writers, practicing the writing process. We're shifting now from the pre-writing stage to the drafting stage, leading to the writing stage. And your tangible products this week are that initial post of exploding that moment, and then your response to your 2 peers, And then to continue to refine your thesis. So some of this reading you're going to be doing is talking to you about this thesis where you're looking to craft this sentence that we're going to strategically place, like the last sentence of the introduction paragraph. It's going to be the north star, the guiding point, the compass, the brain of the entire story. Be sure to practice the skills you learned this week in incorporating sensory details, show rather than tell, and explode a moment where it makes sense to do so. So again, it's going to be key moments that are going to jump out and say, no, this is the moment I need to explode. And you're going to find as you read about writing narrative, when the textbook is mostly talking about, you got to decide if you're going to do it in chronological order. First this happened, then this happened, then this happened, or you're going to do it by order of importance. And let's say this essay might end up being, these um, 5 or 7 paragraphs or whatever. You might find that each of those paragraphs, those body paragraphs, which are a unit, that within them there's one moment that you need to um, explode. And so we'll be practicing this and walking through this. So the next week we will peer review these essays. So you will see, and if you want to look ahead into part 3 of module 2, you'll see how what we're going to be doing coming out of this and going into next week, to where by the time we get to the discussion board, you'll have a draft of your essay that now you'll post and your peers will review them, and you'll give each other feedback. Um, so so work through the first parts of your writing process and be ready to share the draft next week. And then next, it takes us to some additional resources. If there's some more, if you want to read some more about, just writing narration, showing versus telling, we got a reading there. There's a video. Suggested read is not required. And this becomes a list of the references that we've encountered so far. Let's say hypothetically, if you're gonna have a works cited page or something, this is bringing together um, the, the the sources that we've used so far and are using to move forward to write this narrative. Where that video, this under the learning notes about the thesis statement, is another reading. You can read about that thesis statement. All these are referenced in either the writing or the videos we've watched. Again, remember we met last week. We met Alex telling her story about um, being a genius with Asperger's. Then we had the other not the TED talk we watched together today about describing. Then remember we had the poet from DARPA, the video. Again, her telling her story in her unique way. And then we had Dina, where she told her story about students of color confronted with imposter syndrome. Remember, you can draw on some of these techniques that they're offering in the video to use them in your writing. And then also then we have this video of slowing down time. Okay, so let me unshare. Questions, comments, feedback. Anybody not clear of where anything is at on our class notes?
I think we're good. Thank you.
All right, so let's go back here 1 minute. Again, so we're journeying through this writing process for this essay, and it'll actually be due for grading September 20th. So we got about a week, a little closer to 2 weeks, like a week and a half. Oh, today's the the 9th. So on the 20th, so again, we'll continue walking through this process. And the 20th, it'll be due for grading in the Dropbox. And when it's time for that, you can just go over here to the Dropbox and click right there and upload it. I'm not sure why it's not letting me. Oh, I think this thing is up a little more sophisticated. Okay, but we'll work that stuff out. Okay, okay. So this is you're about time coming together some very, valuable time. So we want to use it. So if anybody got any questions, any thoughts, any comments that you're thinking out there that you want to bring to a class, so that you're not just working out there alone, this is the time to do it. Let me see something. That's it. Nothing else. Okay, y'all. So oh, let me just go over here. Just want to this agenda that I never pulled up. I want to share with you real quickly. Okay, so we did our writing prompt, which got you started with your draft for your initial post. I need to also add, you'll be reading chapter 44. And we got your learning notes to read. You can watch the videos from part one and part two, to complete discussion for the week. Great grading. That's just me mentioning that I am catching up on grading. So between today and tomorrow, you'll start to see your grades for the stuff you've already submitted. We're talking about, okay, so I encourage you to rewatch some videos from last week and watch the ones for this week. Class videos. I decided I got to kind of make a decision on how to proceed, with class videos. So I'm open for feedback if anybody wants to share anything. Because I'm recording the class videos, I can't really hold students to showing their faces. So I'm thinking about, but at the same time, to me, it's not as classroom engaging, or it doesn't really seem like a class, or I'm just looking at people's names, you know. And so I want to be able to see you, and I want to be able to see you out there, engaging, and and having your notebooks and taking notes. And so for me, I'm weighing it out to where, um, to me, that might try to create this classroom experience as opposed to kind of just, looking at names, try to create that classroom experience as much as possible. That I'm considering um, not recording the classes, but instead just me doing a webinar, or me doing a recording or a lesson that I post at the beginning of the week for people to be able to watch, so that when we come to the class, I'm not recording it, so we can start seeing each other, because we need to see each other at some point. And I also need to see that you're out there, participating, not kind of just like, watching class like TV, but that you got those tools out, that you're taking notes, you have your books open, that you are actively and critically engaged. And then starting it going forward, and next week we're going to start breaking you up, where we can put you in breakout rooms, you can go in groups and work together and stuff like that. So but the classroom videos that I have recorded already, I will post those hopefully before the end of the week. But I'm thinking about kind of, making that making that shift. Like I said, I'm open for feedback around that. And then just reminding us that our classes are our office hours on Monday, which means I'll be right here, when you log on Mondays from 2 to 3. If you have 2 to 3:15, if you have any questions, and I'll keep sending a link, but the same link you use any Monday or Wednesday will be the same link you'll use throughout the semester, and then our classes are at 3:15. I mean, our classes are Wednesday. So I don't know if anybody want to share anything about my idea about this. All right, thanks, Ryan. Anybody want to share anything about anything that I shared, in particular around that whole um classroom and seeing each other and starting trying to. I understand that sometimes you you don't want to be seen. You shouldn't have to be seen, or you need your privacy or something. But I don't want us to spend the whole semester just looking at each other's names.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like the class would be more engaging if everyone showed their cameras or at least talked a lot more. Um, and I know other people have like other situations, but there's a lot less people in this class right now than I thought there usually was. So I don't know about that, but it would be nice to see everyone's face to interact.
Yeah, I appreciate your feedback. Yeah.
I got you guys. I'll turn my camera.
And I'm not sure whether we lost some people because of the mix up between having Monday off and me over here. I'm still over here trying to figure out, oh, it's a day class or is today office hours, or what. But anybody else want to share anything? Because like I said, if I stop recording our class, I will still make a recording, a record me teaching the lesson of what we're going to talk about all week, but I'll be able to make that available, like by Sunday night, early Monday, so people can watch it. But you'll watch it in a way to where nobody else's face will be seen. And I think there are some really good, beautiful moments that we'll have together in class that we'll lose out on because now we're not recording. But I think in some ways that can also encourage people to to come to class, because there might be some people like maybe could have really came, but they're like, well, it's going to be recorded anyway, so I'm not really going to miss anything. And so in this way, we could have that time together. Yeah, I mean, even to me, it just feels even totally different, just seeing y'all as I talk than it did the whole thing of just kind of, seeing your name. But if I did that, I would stop recording our class so that when we're together in this space, we can have that privacy so that, if you show your face, it's not going to, show up on YouTube or something.
I think if you made the videos to where you taught the lesson, I think less people would come because they'd be like, oh, I'll just watch the video so I don't have to go to the class. Mm. That's just my thinking. I mean, I'd still do both so I could get the full experience so I could learn more, but other people might be busy or they might not want to come just because you already recorded the lesson and they could watch it on their own time throughout the week. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's part of the oxymoron, if you will, the kind of opposites of what we're doing. Because remember, I mean, some of you might be online people, but we're not here doing this online remotely because we want to, right? We're doing this so we could stay in school during COVID-19. Because the truth of the matter is, with real online classes, you can't require students never have to show up anywhere. And so, and that'll bring me to another point that I'll share a little bit about now, but tell you more about in detail for next week. You won't lose out on complete attendance for the week if you don't come to class, because the college can't really hold, you can't really have a remote learning environment or online class and make students show up at a particular time. So it really is, kind of up to the student, like if they decide to watch that video or to come to class. I think that what we're going to experience is, and there are people I think will go with, both in different directions. But this part, some of us really need what they call synchronous. We really need to know that at a certain time on a certain day, I'm going to connect with some people around this class. And so if you need that and want that, we're here, And so it's really, from this remote aspect of what we're doing, it's really all right if a student watches the videos and they don't come to the class component. Because in addition to this class component, see what I look for and how I give attendance and participation, they could be coming to this meeting where we see each other. Every time when somebody watches, in the back office of D2L, I can log in and I can see how many times people have actually logged on and come into our class. I can see the last time you logged on. So that's pretty much mostly how I've been doing attendance. Like when I put in attendance, it won't be that the people are not here today, they won't get marked absent. First, I'm just recording attendance once a week. And over that course of a week, I need to make sure that you've engaged with the course shell on some level. And I can do that by seeing that you're submitting discussions, right? If you do a discussion, that's guaranteeing that you've been engaged with the class at least 3 times, right? Where you are actually writing your initial post, you're responding to classmates. But it also shows me on the back end, it shows me how, like when you're going in, you're just reading each other's profile and the stuff you wrote in the discussion board, it'll show me that person, viewed 16 other people. So between just you're doing your discussion boards, submitting your assignments, coming here, it'll, watching the videos, that all can show me, okay, during this week, this student has made at least 4 contacts with the class. So that equals, attendance. So, anybody else? Yes, like I said, I don't know. We lost a lot of people today, so I'm not sure whether it was, again, because of the, the mix up or, or whether it's online, but there's got to be, different ways to monitor that a person is, doing the work. All right, y'all. So y'all got anything else for me? Well, thank you for showing me your faces. All right, y'all. So, all right, know I'm here in addition to our office hours. If you need to reach out for something, reach out, email me, give me a call or something. And I remember, I think they have a, let me just share this with you real quickly before we go. I think I saw it on when, home. Yeah, I think they have a little advertisement here. On the home when you log into D2L before you pick any of your courses, where it says free tutoring available on campus and remotely. I tutor writing. And so it's saying you can, if you need tutoring, you can visit it through Navigate, or you can call this number and make an appointment, whether you want to actually go to campus or whether you want to do it through Zoom. And in addition to accessing tutors in various, oops, something went wrong. In addition to accessing tutors from various subjects, if anybody wants to work with me, you can sign up, for us to work together, either virtually or on Thursday afternoons from 2:30 to 5, I'm at Laurie. And on Saturdays from 11 to 2, I'm at Laurie. So if you actually think you want to kind of work us up in face-to-face. All right, y'all. So I guess I'll let y'all go if y'all ain't got anything else for me. All right, so explode those moments and tell those stories. All right, y'all. That's all I got now for y'all now.
All right, thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Take care.